Hi scrapbookers, I'm Trisha Morris from Club Scrap, coming to you from my studio based in Neenah, Wisconsin. Today's mission is to learn some really fun techniques to help you scrapbook and create pages more efficiently. Today we're working with the Ports of Call collection, so without further delay, let's get started. I'll start out by giving you a quick tour of my completed Ports of Call pages. These were the finished layouts that we'll be making together, but with photos from my stash added to the pictures. And I used them for a really fun trip to Mexico that I was able to make before the pandemic restricted all of our travel plans. And I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to visit there before this all happened, because these pictures are absolutely perfect. So I hope that you have some fun pictures already in mind for the project, but I want to just encourage you to simply create all the layouts and then add the pictures, because that's precisely what I did here and the results were pretty fantastic. I'll set these aside and then I'll talk about what we need to get the job done. First of all, I've got the 12-inch guillotine style paper trimmer. This one is from Fiskars. I have a warehouse full of these, so if you are in need of a good quality trimmer that's reasonably priced with a self-sharpening blade, this is fabulous, and I'd be happy to ship one to you with a future order. And what I like about it is that it has a grid, a vertical line every 1/4 inch for nice alignment and easy measuring. It has a stabilizing bar to prevent the paper from buckling when the blade comes down. I'd mentioned it has the self-sharpening blade, and it also has this leveling ridge here, so when you place the paper into the base of the trimmer, you can be sure that it's going to be a nice straight cut. Now, if we were in an actual classroom, we would be working together, and I would have handed out one of these for you to borrow. This is actually a handmade accordion pocket file. And I developed this a few years ago to help classrooms stay organized, especially when we lack a lot of horizontal space. We always seem to have plenty of vertical space. So I designed this out of 3 sheets of 12 by 12 heavyweight paper. It has a lip on it and then 4 pockets. So every piece we cut with the trimmer will be filed into one of these 4 pockets labeled 1 and 2, 3, 4, and so on. Each pocket represents 1 double-page spread. And that way, when we're done doing all the trimming for all the layouts at the same time, we don't have to sort through a huge stack of all kinds of papers. Everything belonging to the layout will be easily found in the pocket. And I have 2 pieces of hook and loop dots put onto the front of this accordion pocket file, and the other matching pairs are on the back of my trimmer. So I take the lip from the file and put it under my trimmer base and just kind of press up against those hook and loop dots, and that's going to hold my accordion pocket file underneath my trimmer, ready to keep things organized at a very convenient distance. Isn't that cool? The other thing, of course, you're going to want is your kit, but also the instructions. Now, these are available as a printable download, or you can just work from a device such as an iPad or a tablet or even your phone. I've known people who use the instructions right from their phone. It's a little bit tiny though, but at any rate, these are the instructions that I'll be using. If you have noticed, there is a packing list in your kit, and the instruction link will be located typically on the packing list. So if you enter that, it's a case sensitive link, enter that in, and that will give you access to the instructions. Otherwise, we also ship we email you the link to the instructions for every kit with purchase. Just some basic information here, and then images of the pieces we'll be cutting, and I'll just walk you through the process. So the first thing I do with a special edition style kit is sort all of the papers into the order that they will be trimmed, and that takes me to page 2 where I see some of these prints, and I'm going to walk you through this. So I'm going to leave all of the embellishments that came with this beautiful collection. I'm going to set all of that aside so it's out of my way. There are some really wonderful embellishments in here. Look at these cute little charms. Okay, we'll set those aside. I usually have students leave that in the bag it came in, so pieces don't land on the floor and so on. And then I take the entire stack of paper and just put it in the crook of my arm, kind of like I'm holding a little toddler. And that way you can easily see all of the beautiful papers and find them quickly. So the first piece I'm going to have you find is right on the top of my stack. I'm going to take this print with the palm trees on it, the palm tree print. I'm going to put it face down on my work surface. Next, like the next print is this boat print. Put that face down on your work surface, just one of each of those. Then dig a little further back, you'll find a white plain. This is actually a beautiful matte coated stock. You're gonna just love the way this paper feels. Actually, I'm gonna take the second sheet of that white plain as well. So 2 white plains. Then we're looking for a medium blue. plane. So there is a light blue, there's a medium blue, and there's a dark blue, and I bet if I show you all three of them, you can tell the difference. So this is our dark, light, medium. This medium is almost like a little bit of a turquoise, or maybe an aqua. I don't know what you'd call it. Then a light blue plane. This one has a gorgeous texture. It's really a soft sky blue. Then it calls for one green plane, of which there are two. The paper is very thick, so you may be wondering, but yes, it's just one sheet. And then one dark blue plane. All right, then from the, I think it's going to be the back of your stack of papers, I want you to look for a sheet of cut-aparts, and they're called cut-aparts because they have indicators that help you cut them apart. So look for this one that has the words happy as a clam on it. Put that face down. And then there should be another sheet of those cut-aparts. Put that one face down. We're going to continue to sort our papers into the perfect order. So next I'm going to look for the remaining boat print. Place that face down. Then the other medium blue, and that's more of the turquoisey shade. Then how about a green plane, followed by the other palm tree print. It gets easier and easier to sort as the paper stack runs low. Then two of this gorgeous orange plane. Now this is kind of like a mottled, I'm not sure if you can see that. I'm sure if you are holding this in your hand, you can. I'm going to put that, both of those sheets next, and then there should be two dark blue. Isn't that a beautiful shade of dark blue? Put those down. Then take the entire stack and put it back up to the top where we started with that beautiful palm tree print. All right, I'm going to walk you through the trimming process. We're going to trim everything for all 8 layouts. This accordion pocket file is about to become nice and full. So the process is that we'll cut and allow the paper to accumulate to the right of the trimmer blade while we trim, and then from there we'll file or trim again if needed. So let's place this first piece into your trimmer with the palm trees in the lower left corner. And I'm going to have you find 9 3/4. Now, usually if I'm teaching in a live session, this is where there's a lot of chat because maybe you haven't measured in a long time, and that's totally okay, but we're going to get you over to the dark side of measuring. So here is, if you look up here, now across the top, you've got your centimeters. Those are the very top row. Then the second row of numbers, those are your inches. Find 9, and then add 3 vertical columns toward 10 to get 9 3/4. So there's 9, 9 1/4, 9 1/2, 9 3/4 is that line. And then line it up. And then take your left hand and stabilize on that clear bar and slice. Of course, too, make sure that it's flush at that top edge, keeping the print nice and straight. Leave that paper where it landed, lift the blade, and then slide down to 6 1/4. So again, I'm going to find 6, go to the left 1 vertical column. That's 6 1/4. And slice. Okay, this larger piece with the palm tree still on it will be filed in pocket 1 and 2. And now here's one last little tip. The folder itself is made from 12-inch pieces of paper, so I can't stick this whole piece into the file. What I'm going to do is place it in at an angle so I can still see the numbers along the left edge. You could also do it on the right edge, whatever you prefer, just so that it's filed. That goes in pocket 1 and 2. Then this other section, the next one on your stack of the 2, it's the wider that remains. Place that in 5 and 6, and then this narrower strip back in 1 and 2. That's the first piece. Now let's grab our boat print. We're going to place that in the trimmer with the boat on the right, and we'll cut at 7. Now we'll isolate the boat. Now rotate this piece that remains in the base. It doesn't matter which direction, I just did it clockwise, but it really does not matter in this case. And we'll cut at 7. Now you just made a nice big square. File that square in pockets 7 and 8. Then this next rectangle, 3 and 4. And finally the large boat, also in 3 and 4, and I'm placing that at an angle. Now from your stack of papers, take 1 sheet of the white plane. This is going to be the easiest set of trimming instructions you'll ever want to learn. We're going to make 6 photomats out of this. So I'm just going to trim this at 6 inches. So basically right in half. Then take the 2 pieces you just created, stack them neatly together, and make 2 cuts. The first one is at 8. and then at 4. And notice that I'm always using something to stabilize that clear bar, no matter the size of the paper. So now, if I pick up all of the pieces I just created, they should all be the same size, and they are. And I'm going to sort them into a few pockets here. So grab 3 of them and place those in pocket 1 and 2. Take 1 of them, pocket 3 and 4, and then the last 2 pieces go in pocket 5 and 6. Ta-da! It doesn't matter what order the pieces fall into the pocket in. We're just going to dump the whole thing out anyway, 1 pocket at a time, hopefully, and work that out from there. So now we're gonna kick it up a notch and give you a little bit more of a difficult scenario here, but you'll be just fine because we're going to take it 1 cut at a time. If I'm going too fast, a tip from one of my members who likes to work a little bit more slowly is to adjust the speed of the video to like 77%. I sound a little bit weird, but it slows me down and you should still be able to hear the numbers. Otherwise, just liberally press pause as needed. Now I'm going to put this in the trimmer at 11 3/4, and it's very, very close to 12. So there's 11. Make sure you go to the left 3 vertical columns, really close to 12 here on the solid line, and make that slice after you stabilize. And then slide down to 6 1/2. Now we're going to rotate this larger piece that's still in the trimmer base. And by the way, I've not moved anything else I've created. That's all sitting right here. Again, I want you to cut at 11 3/4, 9, and 4 1/2. You made 2 pretty large rectangles that should be the same size. File those in 7 and 8. And then you should have a narrow rectangle. We're going to cut that at 6 1/2. Oh, we don't even need to. It's already 6 1/2. And then 3 1/4. You made 2 rectangles that are the same size. Those go in pocket 7 and 8. And ladies and gentlemen, meet your very first scrap. Sometimes when I'm in class, I have people pick them up and tell them we're going to trim it horizontally, and then I tell them I'm kidding, and then they laugh, so it won't work. It's like Jimmy Fallon trying to do the Tonight Show from home. Okay, the white plane is 5 1/4 by 12 is another piece that remains here next to your trimmer. We're going to cut that horizontally 3 times. The first number is 11 1/4, then 7 1/2, and 3 3/4. Those 3 pieces are the same size and are used in pocket 3 and 4. And we have another little scrap here, I'm sorry to tell you. And then this long skinny strip. This long one is not a scrap, it's used in layout 5 and 6. Moving right along to 1 sheet of the medium blue plane. Let's trim that at 10 1/2 and 6 1/4. Rotate, cut at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. So now you just made 2 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 photo mats. It's nice because our photos are 4 by 6. This is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. It's a wonderful, this is a great formula to remember. You can use it again and again. These are used in pocket 1 and 2. You are left with this odd size rectangle. We're going to trim it horizontally at 6 and 3. Stack up the 2 rectangles that are the same size and place them in pocket 7 and 8. And here is a little scrap. I'll set that aside. Now we have this wider strip. It's 4 1/4 by 12. We're going to trim it horizontally at 6 1/4. That gives me a 3rd photo mat. I'll put that in 3 and 4. This is just a nice sized rectangle for pocket 7 and 8. And this 1 1/2 inch strip, we'll place that in pocket 3 and 4. Nothing else left of that one. Moving right along to the light blue plane. We'll cut and make some narrow strips here. So the first trim is at 11 3/4, then 11 1/2, 9 3/4, and 6 1/4. All right, 6 1/4 by 12. We'll rotate and we're going to pull another same exact move here. So we're trimming horizontally at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. 2 more mats used in layout 7 and 8. Then you have the odd shaped rectangle. Once again, we're going to trim it horizontally at 6 and 3. If I just simply cut that rectangle in half, it would give me a weird measurement, 3 and 1/8, and a lot of people don't like that. So that's why I get rid of this little scrap. These other two pieces are used in layouts 1 and 2. And next we're going to turn this 3.5 by 12 inch strip into 4 rectangles by cutting on the numbers divisible by 3. You can tell maybe I like math. I don't know, I used to be a piano teacher, but you use math a lot in music. All right, so I'm going to trim at 9, 6, and 3, all into thirds, into numbers divisible by 3. So 9, 6, 3. All 4 of these go in pocket 1 and 2. Then you have a wider strip, 3 and 4, and 2 really skinny strips, 7 and 8. Next up, we got this nice, beautiful green plane. It's a beautiful, heavyweight, 80-pound cardstock. And we're going to trim this at, you're going to start to get used to this, 10 and a half. And 6 1/4, surprise, surprise. Rotate, and the first number again is 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. One of these, because these are the same, one goes in 1 and 2, and the other 5 and 6. Look, it's another rectangle. Look, we're going to cut it at 6 and 3. Place one rectangle in pocket 1 and 2, the other in 5 and 6. I have a plan for all of these pieces, I promise. Then this next larger piece, 4 1/4 by 12 right now, we'll cut it horizontally at 6 1/4. File both pieces, even though they're different sizes, file them both in 5 and 6. And this is why I want you to just let those papers pile up, because they're sitting right where I need them to be. There is a little scrap we have in this last strip, 5 and 6. Moving right along, this is just going to depart from our routine now. We'll cut this one at 11 1/4. So remember, 11 go to the left, one column, 11 1/4, and then 10 1/2, then 9, and then finally 5. Now this piece I'm going to rotate, and we'll cut at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. That just gave me 3 rectangles all the same size. And I want to give you a quick preview from layout 5 and 6. I want to show you something very quickly. When we cut at those measurements, it was 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. That gives us an opportunity to place 3 rectangles in a row on one page, kind of like a film strip, with really nice equal margins on either side. I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but when you trim a row of papers at that measurement, it really gives you a nice opportunity to put a series of 3 photos in a row onto a 12 by 12 page. All right, this is 5 and 6. Then we have this 4 by 12. We're going to trim it in half at 6 inches. Stack and file both pieces the same size into pocket 3 and 4. This strip, pocket 3 and 4, and then you have 2 more equal sized strips, 5 and 6. Okay, next we have arrived at what I call the cut aparts. So all of the regular individual papers that need to be trimmed are done. And when I look at a cut apart to decide how I'm going to trim it, I always begin by trying to find the narrowest piece and put that closest to my trimmer blade. The wide piece goes off last. That gives me a lot more to hang on to and a lot more to rest on my my guide up at the top. Thus, I get a straighter cut. Then I want you to notice, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see, but we'll try. There are these little tiny gray marks on the paper, and that is there to indicate where to cut. So with the trimmer of this model, oh look, I found a little blue scrap. Just set that one aside. When I put this in the trimmer, I can see the right edge of the blade very easily with this model, which I love. And so if I put this in my trimmer at about 11 3/4, but really I'm going to default to lining up the 2 gray marks, one at the top, one at the bottom. with the edge of my blade, stabilize and slice. But that was at about 10 3/4. And then I'm going to slide down again to 10 1/4. And let those pieces pile up. We'll file them together, then about 9 3/4. And 8 1/2. 7 1/4 for the next one. And you know, I don't provide those numbers. The 7 1/4 will not be in. It's just I'm just having you follow the guides for trimming. Then 5 1/4. And lastly, 3 1/4. So these are all going to be strips. What I like to do then is just try my best to pick up the entire stack of strips off my work surface and hold them in my hand like a deck of cards, and then deal them out. I find that if you try to pick up each individual strip one at a time from the table, it takes a lot longer to file. It took me longer to tell you all that, but now that you know the trick, we're ready to go. All right, so Beachology, that goes in 7 and 8. There are big ships and small ships. That's 1 and 2. The paneling here, 7 and 8. I Was Made for Sunny Days, that's 5 and 6. The Beach, 3 and 4. This really thin strip with text on it, and then also the thin strip with the little wood. Both of those go in 5 and 6. And Happy as a Clam, 3 and 4. One more piece left to trim, and all 8 layouts will be ready to roll. We'll place this one in the trimmer again. After studying this, I see that there's the narrowest strip is here, so with the little dolphins on it, we'll put that on the right. And my first hash mark lands me at 10 1/2 inches. A reminder once again to stabilize each time you cut. Then 7 3/4. And finally 4. So leave all of those pieces on the pile, and then just rotate this last one here, and we'll cut horizontally at, puts me at 6 3/8. Sort of a weird measurement, but whatever, it is what it is. Just find the hash mark and line it up with the blade. That's all there is to it. Okay, then this piece goes in 5 and 6. And I should mention, this also goes in 5 and 6. If you say, what did you say? What layout did that go on? I missed it. Then you know, instead of rewinding, if you want, you can pause me and look at the image of the cut apart map right on the first page of your instructions. And if you see it has the number where that piece will be filed. So you can do all of this independently of my video. It's just that people like to follow along, and many people can keep up with this once they have a couple of kits under their belt. I'm going to place the next strip into the trimmer with Home is Where the Anchor Drops on the right. And my first cut's at 9 1/4. And then 6 1/2. And 3 3/4. Ahoy and the Ship's Wheel, Be a Seeker of Everyday Magic. Those are so sweet. 7 and 8. And then we have our little umbrellas, 1 and 2. Home is Where the Anchor Drops, 5 and 6. Yeah, that made it in there. Now we have another strip to separate. This has the little knots. We'll put that on the right. Nautical knots. That was 9 3/4, 6 1/2, and 3 1/4. I try to put at least 4 journaling prompts in each set of cut aparts. Here's 3 of them, and that way you always have at least one spot to write on every layout. So the anchor, or I'm sorry, the ship's wheel rather, goes in 1 and 2. The shell, 7 and 8, the single shell. Got a double shell here, that's 3 and 4. The knots, 3 and 4. Okay, one more. I got a seahorse on the right. We'll cut at 9 1/4. You'll notice this is dolphin piece is also combined with a journaling prompt. That will go in 5 and 6. And the seahorse, I didn't use him. Maybe. You know, think what happened when I was designing the pages. This had fallen on the floor, and I just didn't use it because it wasn't there. So this is designer's choice placement on this adorable seahorse. I'd probably cut him out and put him somewhere. Okay, I'm going to lock my trimmer blade. By the way, I should mention that now is not the greatest time, but it does have a locking blade. So there's a notch. Let's see, a notch right here, and there's a hole in the blade. So when you just wing the blade out just ever so slightly, and it'll engage in the notch, and you've got your blade nice and safe. I don't recommend like swinging this around, but it's very lightweight and portable, even though it's just a little bit larger size. But oh, I don't leave home without this if I'm going to scrapbook. So we'll set that aside, and now I'm going to explain the next phase of the operation. The first phase, of course, we put all the paper in trimming order. The next phase was to trim all of the regular papers and then trim and file the cut aparts. So that's done. Now we do the stack and slide. This is a phase where we just dry fit. We do not use adhesive during this phase. We're just getting the pieces out of the pockets and placed on the pages where they're going to belong. And I generally still work in a single smaller space, not in a huge where I have all 8 layouts laid out for this part of the process. So I want you to imagine, if you will, a 12 by 24 inch space in front of you, and here's the center. Take the entire stack of remaining papers, not just one piece, but the whole stack, and put it left of that center line. Then take the top piece and slide it over. And now you have the base for layout 7 and 8. Now that may seem a little weird, like, Trisha, why are you starting with layout 7 and 8? Well, it's because as we stack and slide, we're going to take everything out of pocket 7 and 8 and put it on these 2 base papers. And then we're going to slide and slide. This is the base for 5 and 6. Slide, slide, base for 3 and 4, and so on. So that when we are done with this phase, what will be on top is layout 1. And that way all the pieces will have their home. If something got misfiled, you'll be able to figure out where it goes. This is just a tried and true approach to doing this phase of the assembly. So what's important to remember is you've got to take everything out of the last pocket labeled 7 and 8, not the first pocket, which is kind of our tendency, right? And I have my image here, page 5, layouts 7 and 8. There's the image. There's a detailed listing of every piece I've used in case there's ever any doubt, and I always list the base of the pages first, the left base and the right base. That's how I determine the order of the paper, by peeking ahead at that. And now I have all these pieces that I'm going to have in my hand that I can maybe deal out. So we'll start out by putting this gorgeous square in the upper right corner of the left side. And I usually try to find the larger pieces or the border strips. Looks like Beachology goes that way, and I think this vertically goes here to make a little frame around the box. Also, against this edge of this piece, we have a thin light blue strip just to add a little bit of color blocking in there. We have some white photo mats nested with some light blue. Look at that, a nice frame around there. The same is true over here, a white, kind of in the boat a little bit, nested with a light blue. Over here we have a vertical mat, and then there are some cut aparts here. Let's see, Be a Seeker of Everyday Magic aligns with the bottom edge of that. This other narrow strip I see goes just above the Beachology, so it kind of makes, again, continues that same framing of the square. Then you should have 2 blue and then 2 white that fit within the blue, which is kind of cool. You have your big ahoy, and then a journaling prompt here on the left edge. And then we've also used some beautiful, this is like a taffeta style ribbon, and all I did here was just tie a knot into the ribbon. This is a nice, pretty low profile dimension, and it just kind of adds a nice touch to it. So just tie a single knot, and then I'm going to cut this so this will wrap around behind the ends, and that'll give us a nice little eye-catching embellishment for the page. That splash of orange is so nice. Now, another thing too, when you have 2 little pieces like this the same size, and I have them tilted on my layout. So one of the things I watch for when I'm tilting things is I try to avoid what's called a tangent. Now, if I were to attach this piece here and here like this, it forms in design something called a tangent, which designers try to avoid. So right here where the corner of that photo mat touches the edge of the paper, and right here where the 2 corners touch each other, that is avoided by designers because it just creates unattractive tension. So in this case, to avoid a tangent, if I want to angle photos, I make one higher and one lower. I tilt them slightly and overlap them slightly. That gets rid of all of the tangents, and you just have to then make sure that your photo mats aren't touching the edge of the paper. And that's it. That just fixes it all. Really looks nice. Okay, then you've got some embellishments added. An anchor will be placed here, but generally I don't deal with the smaller embellishments until after I'm done with the dry fitting phase. Same is true for ribbon, but I just kind of like to share some tips along the way. So to review, this is page 8 with photos added. And look, I added an additional photo. It was a picture of our door, and I just put it there without a mat because it worked. And here's the cute little palm tree charm. I attached the charm with our bookbinding glue dispensed from a needle tipped applicator. So you just squirt a little bit of the glue on the back of the charm, place it, set it aside to dry, and it's perfect. Now, if you're wondering how I attach my photos to my layouts, I generally use my 8x8 grid ruler to help me do that. So in this case, I had to crop a picture. So I hovered over the mat to find out what size the white piece was. Then I can take my grid ruler and hover over the picture to find out if cropping it at those dimensions is going to be okay. And I can see the width and the length at right at the same time with my 8x8 grid. You can do that for measuring all of your photos, but again, in the instructions, the size the photo would need to be is already printed in there, which is super handy. And here is layout 7, again with some more pictures added. I added some of the really beautiful, I love choosing ribbons for our collections. This one is gorgeous. It's just a real soft, like suede-like texture. Added that to the top of the anchor and then used our bookbinding glue to attach it. So another great layout. I even added my journaling. I'm so proud of myself. I'll set this aside and then we'll do the slide part. So slide page 7 onto page 8 and then stack the next sheet, or slide that one over and stack it on top of that. And now you have the base for layouts 5 and 6. So the next step is to just simply remove the contents of the pocket. Make sure you get everything. I've had people in class leave things behind. It really confuses my students in the next class. Okay, now I have all of these pieces that I can deal out. And again, I just reference the picture. And if you are a member of Club Scrap, our monthly kits always come with a video. So you never really have to do this on your own. If you don't want to, I will walk you through every step of the way. This larger strip goes on the right edge here. Looks like our dolphin strip is going to live at the bottom. And just above that, there's a dark blue border nested with that strip that has all the words on it. So I'll just go ahead and place that there. Those are all ports of call. How ironic. And then I think I'm going to go with this row. I referenced this earlier. The 3 cool photo mats, all nice in a row. And then to the right, we've got a vertical strip with nesting with that guy. Really nice blocking here with the color. Love that. Then on the right edge, we have this larger cut apart. So now on the left, I'm going to take this green, these 2 green mats that are the same size, and they should have a mate to nest with the white plane. Of note, there was the skinny little white one that goes right next to that piece on this edge to kind of subdivide the color. Then across the top, the I Was Made for Sunny Days page title. Then this will nest on this, but what I would recommend you do is just shave a little bit off of this piece to make it fit. Just bring that back to the trimmer. This is going to go here in this spot. And this will go below. Home is where the anchor drops. Before we move on to just looking at the finished layouts, I'd like to take a few moments and show you some assembly tips for these layouts. Just to kind of get the ball rolling on this right side, I'm going to go ahead and attach just a couple things so I can show you some further techniques. So this little piece right here, I'm going to attach that first. So this is going to go right along the edge, just flush, okay? And now I have this little tiny piece. Well, how do I attach that to this? Well, I'm going to show you a trick. We've got this little needle tip applicator filled with our bookbinding glue, and I'm going to, after this is attached to the page, run the nozzle of the dispenser right along the edge of the paper. And that gives me a nice little track. And then I'm going to do, like, it slides and clicks into place. I'm just going to drag it from the upper piece right onto the green paper, and then it fits right in there perfectly. Okay, now the next step is to adhere these 3 mats to my paper, and for that I use my grid ruler. So I normally don't get to show stuff like this as accurately in class, because it's just hard to see and hard to explain, and sometimes we just don't quite have enough time, especially if people were struggling even with sorting papers. Sometimes we don't get to these bonus things. So this is probably one of my favorite ways to teach a class, is just at my own pace in my studio here, right in Neenah. Okay, so with this ruler, it's 3 by 14. And one side runs from 0 to 14, the other side runs from 7 to 0, 0 to 7. And I can place this ruler, and I'm sorry if there's some glare from my overhead lighting here, but we have to have a well-lit project. Every cube on the ruler, whether it's formed by a dotted line or a solid line, is 1/8 of an inch. So if I were to just want to measure 1/8 of an inch in from the edge of the paper, I would be on the first line of the ruler. And I have a 6 here and a 6 here, so that means I'm centered. But now I want to do like a cube and a half, the 3/16 of an inch, a little crazy. Now if I rest this piece against the ruler and find my center, which in this case is 1 7/8 on each side, and separate it by 3/16 of an inch, which is basically a cube and a half, my 3 pieces of paper here are now all perfectly placed. So I might as well just grab my adhesive, and I'll double check my alignment of the ruler, just so nice on the grid. I always place the center first. Again, that's at 1 7/8. It doesn't really matter what the measurement is, as long as it matches on both sides. And then a cube and a half apart. And now this is perfectly placed. So that is just how I would go about assembling something like this to make it look, you know, kick it up a notch, right? All right, then I'll just put the lid back on my little nozzle. I always keep it on its side so the glue is near the tip, and when I'm not using it, I store it tip side down. Here we go. This was page 6 again. I added that palm tree again with the bookbinding glue, and it just works like a charm for those charms. And then here we have the wooden embellishment added as well. And remember to add my journaling. Look at all those wonderful pictures. It was such a beautiful trip. Okay, I'll set that aside, and then we're going to slide this over, and I'll grab everything out of pocket 3 and 4. We're almost done. You will also want to turn, we're working backwards, remember now, turn to page 3 or 4 rather, of your instructions. This is layout 3 and 4. 2 plain oranges are right in front of me, and I've got this great big beautiful boat that would have been on the bottom of the print, but I moved it to the top. Then we have a wide blue border strip flush with the edge of that boat. You can attach it the same way if you want with the bookbinding glue, works like a charm. We have the definition of a beach. We have 3 smaller vertical mats. There's the 3rd one. Guess what? They're going to be 3/16 of an inch apart. I can use my 0 center on the grid to help me layer those if you want, only if you want to. Same here, I can attach this border strip with the help of my ruler to keep it level. So we have light blue, medium blue, and then happy as a clam. Above that, 2 horizontal dark blue mats. This striped piece, double matted, so it's like a triple mat for your photo. Look at that, that's beautiful. How about a journaling prompt tucked in here a little bit, have this lowered. And I believe I cut out I just used scissors to fussy cut the knots. That's of course optional. So the finished page, I've added a fun bow with this beautiful orange ribbon. And yep, there are the trimmed nautical knots. Here I'm doing a tequila tasting. And then we have 3 really fun little resin floral embellishments. I made a little loop from the ribbon here and just taped it to the back of the photo mat before I added it, just to add a little bit of color, and you know, the ribbon used on both sides of the page for balance. Time to do another stack and slide. So let's get rid of this, slide it over, and slide this over. And we have 2 blue pieces remaining for layouts 1 and 2. Empty pocket 1 and 2. Got a bunch of stuff in there, just kind of layer it up. Here's my picture for reference. So you'll always want to keep your instructions handy. this largest piece. Let's get rid of that. And it goes about a ½ inch in from the left edge of the left page. And then it looks like we've got, there are big ships on this edge. And then you've got this happening. How about a lime green mat nested with a white plane? Then you have a set of 4 small mats. Now you don't have to use this individual mat to add 4 pictures. You could stretch 1 picture across the 2 mats. That happens a lot. That's no problem. It just kind of making them a various size adds a little bit of balance and makes the page a little more attractive than just having all of your mats the same size. Oh, look, some tilted mats here, avoiding the tangents by raising one, overlapping slightly, and tilting. Nice. Then 2 more smaller light blue mats to balance the color from one side of the page to the other. This ship's wheel journaling prompt nests onto some green to add a little brightness and life, and that's going to go up here. And this is the page where I added quite a few of these wood sailboats. So again, these are nice and slim and attach well with our bookbinding glue. So here is the right side of the layout, again with the 4 pictures, which I used my 8x8 grid ruler to hover and then identify the size of the photo mat, and then hover over the photo to make sure it would work in that space. So that way you're just measuring once and then trimming once. It's not all this guesswork and just trying to make it fit by trimming, and next thing you know, you don't have anything left of your picture. It was this gorgeous, more aqua colored gross grain stretched across the page and simply taped the ends to the back. You can see here too, I added an extra picture. So again, in a situation like this, I just kind of hover over the space, and I decided that a 2.5 inch wide picture would be ideal for the spot. It would land right on top of, in the middle of the ribbon, and that's why I chose that size. So this grid ruler is super handy for a nice professional finishing touch. Then you've got layout number 1, where I just simply tied that same ribbon, again balancing the right and left with the appearance of the ribbon again, and adding the 3 sailboats here, and then the other 3 are on the right edge of the second page. Here, 2 more pictures have been added, just perfectly placed, all measured, and boy, this is a beautiful set of pages. I absolutely love how this turned out for my trip that I just took in January. So using this method, I'm relatively caught up with my scrapbooking. I just have a couple of big trips to Europe from the past 2 years I need to buckle down and get caught up on. But as you can see, this method could really transform your use of your materials, because once you scrapbook these formulas with the materials that came in your kit, you can then recycle, perhaps, prints and planes from your own stash, if you happen to have one, to make an additional set of layouts that will look completely different with this. Now, a membership to Club Scrap works a little bit differently than these special editions. The monthly kits include pre-cut photo mats, and you only have to trim 4 sheets of paper to complete the pages, which is kind of handy. Plus, you do trim the cut-aparts as well. And the monthly membership is only $21.95 plus shipping, which is $7.95 flat rate, and there is no minimum monthly requirement. So I hope that you enjoyed this system, that you use it and apply it to what you're doing at home already, and that you will let us just come into your home once a month in a beautiful craft-colored pizza box filled with all of this creative goodness. Thank you so much for participating in this class. I hope you had fun, that you learned a few things, and I hope to see you again soon.